We good to go?
We are good to
All
go.
right. Welcome to tonight's Hopkinton Select Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 15th. I'm Sabrina Dunlap. We have a full board, Ken Trom, Stephen Whitley, Tom Sapoma, and Jeff Donahoe. And we also have the Webster Select Board with us tonight. So we will go through a couple of our administrative items and then do our joint meeting with Webster. So first up is the points of pride.
Sure. I just wanted to note budgets were all due in Friday and everybody worked really hard on them and they look pretty good at first glance, maybe a little more than first glance. So thank you to all the department heads and people that put those together.
Well, certainly, I will appreciate that even more so once I get to the budget committee. And I wanted to have a point of pride for Mike Metcalf. Mike's a commissioner with the Kentucky Village Precinct and a retired water engineer. And he made an excellent presentation to the budget committee about the status of the water system and the new federal ruling with regards to lead in the pipes and how it may impact the precinct as well as every other water system. And really educational and I'm not sure what I'd say assuring because it could be a lot of costs coming down the road, but it was very informative.
Good. Anyone else? Okay. Next up under administrative, first is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the public meeting minutes from September 23rd, 2024.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we have one non-public, so approval of non-public minutes from September 23rd, 2024.
I'll move, but note they are not sealed.
I will second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. And finally, approval of the public meeting minutes from October 8th, 2024.
Do we have those?
You do not.
Nope.
You will get
Okay.
those. All it is
Those
the consent agenda that was approved that night.
That was from our joint meeting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I went through all that. Okay. Thank you. So now we will move on to our first public appointment, which is our joint meeting with the Webster Select Board. So we are gathered here today to anything green? That's right. We are first going to review the fee schedule. So,
And Jolene is here,
oh, yes,
so.
thank you for being with us.
Come up and
Yes,
people
then the
can
mic
hear you
pick
in the
you up.
microphone.
And I'll just refresh everyone's memory that we spent quite a bit of time with the Webster Select Board updating and revising our fee schedule and very much appreciate Jolene and others' input and feedback. And since this is a dynamic process, hopefully we can make some more updates that'll be helpful. So if you guys are okay with it, do you want to just walk through some of your observations and suggestions? Would that be easiest or?
Yeah, I think when I wrote the email, I went right down the list of the
Okay.
fee schedule. So,
So you guys have seen this too, the suggestions? Okay.
Okay.
Um,
And I'll just say that Jolene has been wonderful to work with. I talked her ear off on the transfer station to understand when things like this are happening and what some of the issues are. So it's really good that we can get together and have something functional after all of this time.
Okay, so we can just hopefully walk through the list and hear your thoughts. So first on the list is with respect to stickers. I see noted, we need a plan for people that need to borrow a car or rent a car and contractors that are doing work inside the town.
I get a lot of people calling in a panic. They have to borrow a vehicle thinking they're not going to be able to come in and what
Yeah.
to do. We had always in the past just asked them to bring proof of residency with them. For contractors that are doing jobs in town, they had always brought a note from a homeowner with address, time of the project, so that you can double check with the homeowner that it's a legit thing.
Mhm. So what's the frequency with which you get these questions, or like people calling worried about
It's pretty,
frequent?
yeah,
Okay.
This was an issue when we were checking stickers,
Yeah.
particularly company-owned vehicles where
Mm.
someone's a company car, it's registered to the company in Manchester or whatever. And they use it for personal use at home, and
hmm
it's a significant problem for a couple of people who were rather upset.
Mhm.
It seems like there's maybe two issues here. One is the example that Jolene was just talking about, where it's a contractor who's working for some entity or person in town. And then the other one is when person in the vehicle is in fact a resident, but is using a company vehicle, as Jeff just noted. And the regs do say that the use of the facility includes agents for those that live in town. And so that first situation, I think, is already addressed by the regs. I think the question is, how do we best document that? And I think that suggestion of what we've done previously seems
still okay.
perfectly adequate to me. I think which will take care of one of them, assuming everyone else is okay with that, then that would leave the other situation where it's people that live in town, but they're in a vehicle that is their company vehicle.
So it seems like in that case, a potentially easy way to deal with it is just have them show proof of residency, but open to other.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Residency to get a sticker for the company vehicle or proof of residency every time they come in with the company vehicle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
So you don't need the vehicle, you can get a sticker for a company vehicle. Cause you don't have to have, the requirement isn't that vehicles registered in town, the requirement is that you live in town. So you can get a sticker for your company vehicle, but if you don't wanna put a sticker on your company vehicle, or like if you're borrowing one or you're renting a U-Haul. Then you'd have to figure something else out.
So the issue that I see there is if somebody in town commonly uses their company truck to, dump off their trash, but it's not only their company vehicle. So somebody else in the company decides that they want to do something. If it's not solely used by that person and not kept by that person, if they leave the job, then you end up with a similar problem to some of what was stated before, where stickers are out and about and being used that shouldn't be. I don't know how much of a problem that is, but it is certainly a concern of that answer of just get another sticker. As long as we're doing lifelong stickers like we've been doing, then I think what Jolene suggested, which is what's been done in the past, makes the most sense.
Which is showing.
Show your proof of residency.
Yeah.
The note from the contractor. I hate to say that because, well, everyone has to show proof of residency like every time because they're constantly using the company truck. That's more of somebody's time for checking something, but as long as we're with this sticker system, that makes the most sense, I believe.
Does that seem reasonable to you? Since that's what sounds like what you've been
What
doing.
we've been doing, yeah.
I just, this is, to me, it seems small sometimes, because, hey, you got a company rig, buy another sticker, but whatever. So with that being said, with this company, with the showing proof, how do you know they originally have a sticker? How do you know they paid their?
So I think
Is that a good way of putting it?
I think the two scenarios are, one, if you have somebody who's running a company vehicle regularly, it's just a proof of residency to have their license showing that they are from in town. if it is somebody who is doing a job in town, they need to have proof of where that job is.
And but you have on record if that household has already paid for the sticker.
I see what you're saying.
Well,
I mean, it's so small. I'm not
well,
really
the
trying to be
house,
that difficult.
the
person. I just-
household would have to be a Hopkinton or a Webster address. It doesn't really matter if they have a sticker because the stuff is coming from your,
Well, except that
community.
that would be
So we
a
charge that
runaround
contract?
way Because we charge everybody else $5.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
So if they never use their own vehicle, then they're paying. I understand
Hmm.
I don't think that's gonna be a major concern.
No, and that probably
You,
isn't.
you've looked at that more as you've been there, how much of that have you seen for?
I mean, there was probably what, maybe 3 or 4% company vehicles. If that.
There was, I remember like the two times we were there was one that was like definitely like, it was the same guy. And you're like, this is my company vehicle, this is the vehicle I drive all the time, I can't put a sticker on it. And then there's a couple other random ones that were like temporary. It wasn't like the one that they used all the time.
yes, and when
It was
you're,
the thing they were using, or they rented a U-Haul, or they had some other reason, or someone borrowed a trailer from a friend or something like that.
and we do have a number of residents that have their company vehicle, that's their company vehicle, and they have their sticker and they put it on a clear piece of plastic.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking too. I think what my point was is that if, I have to have a sticker for our household and you have to have a sticker for your household, but, oh, hey, I got proof of residence, but I'm in a company truck. How do you know that they actually have bought their sticker for the household? So yes, it sounds to me that somebody's being really smart when they buy the sticker, they put it in the thing and they
So
go
when
you
the-
that way.
When the contractor brings in,
Yeah, yeah.
no, they need to have their sticker number as well on there.
So if I have a contract from Manchester to renovate my house, he fills up his truck with stuff and brings it down to you, does he have to pay to get rid of that?
Yes.
Part of the fees, right? In the sense, because it wouldn't be.
Hmm?
$100 a ton? Is that what it is?
Depends on what material you have.
Yeah, whatever the fees.
It would be somewhere between $120 and $150 a ton, the way the fees are right now.
So right now, in the ordinance, we don't have an allowance for like permission from the owner, though.
Okay,
That's right, like that's something that we're doing, that it sounds like we're all in agreement with, but it's not actually in the ordinance. So I'm curious if we need to add that.
Well, it does say, I mean, agents of people that live in town.
They need to have stickers.
I don't recall seeing that specificity in the ordinance.
Yeah, all vehicles need to have a permit sticker. Like we just say all vehicles have to have a sticker. We don't, it's like there's no exemption there for it.
So maybe the appropriate thing would be to adjust the ordinance that says all vehicles must have a sticker or be an agent of a household with a sticker. With a sticker number.
Or permit number, in a sense.
So like their sticker number is what's saying, yeah, this vehicle is allowed. Even if it's not the same sticker for that vehicle.
To be fair, I don't know if Jolene has a list of what stickers assigned to me. Do you have that?
I was hoping that now that you guys are doing them at the town clerks, it's going to be done electronically. So it can actually be looked up, because that was one of the concerns I had before when we had binders full of handwritten sticker numbers.
Wait, let me find you.
Yes.
You want to drop your dump off? Well, give me a couple hours.
So anything that's gone out recently is in the system prior.
Mhm. So within
Most
the
people would
next
have.
year, it should, if you do them yearly, or are you only
At the
doing them?
moment,
Currently, it is still a lifetime sticker. We haven't
Gotcha.
changed anything there.
Which we saw when we were checking stickers. There were some that were 25 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah, we might.
A's and B's.
It seems like maybe we should have like a template form that you can fill out that says, this is my address, this is my signature. This is how long they're doing construction in my house. They show up with that. Then they can, presumably they'd be getting weighed anyways, so it's not like we need to worry about the sticker fee. Then that would allow them, the contractor to use. That way it's what you're doing, but we have a formal process for it and we have a form that someone can just like download and fill out and take with them. But that would have to be a change to the ordinance.
Mhm.
I mean, I personally think it makes sense to do that. Obviously, we have to do the change of the ordinance, but anybody in disagreement that that's the way we should go?
Seems like a reasonable path forward. So.
And then what about, there's the case, the company car one's kind of weird, because if you're using it enough, like there's ways, like if you laminate it or put it on, there's enough ways to like solve that problem. The one where like if you borrow like your in-laws truck to do a bigger run for the day or something, that one, like, you would never get a sticker for that. Can that form also take care of that scenario or some other
Isn't that
thing?
where they usually just ask for ID in that
For
case,
the
right?
residency?
Yeah.
So we just ask
residency.
for. Yeah. Would they also get weighed then?
This feels like.
That's one of my questions on
Yeah.
here.
Well, so for now, it seems like we can stick with what you've been doing on the case of like a borrowed truck or whatever,
Mhm.
and then potentially update the ordinance on the like contractor doing work in town. I think those are the,
Yep.
okay.
It's part of the problem of just not any resident just having like a number, because you're asking for things to be more digital than back in the day when they had stickers. Would it, and I'm like, I'm not trying to kill this. Would it make sense to, whoever has that lifetime sticker, there's a number that is on that sticker, correct? And then your digital, you can say, oh yeah, there's the number for that household, so they are good to go.
If that was at my facility, the stickers are no longer at my facility. So they're now,
Right, but you would need, like, so if I go in and I buy a sticker in Webster, right? Then the Herrick household is assigned a number, and then you should have a digital thing saying
access to
that,
it.
yeah, that you have, oh, yeah, they're good, and it shouldn't, it should follow along with, if you have a company truck or whatever, your number.
And just because we've been told a couple times that the Hopkinton board wants to talk to us about stickers and updating them and changing that, that's a perfect opportunity to talk about that briefly, though I don't want to derail this. If you had any particular things that you were wanting to put forward.
Wait, say that part again? Who wants to? Who's in the front
The
proposal?
the previous one that you didn't have a quorum for, that you were going to be presenting a new sticker plan to us in essence. So I was wondering if there was anything that you wanted to briefly talk about there for getting ideas and feedback.
Was talk
I don't know.
way back, but I don't think there's been further talks since the last time you actually met. So,
Stay tuned. I'd like to get through Jolene's list first.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on the
You'll have
front
to-
line every day, puts up all the scrap.
Poor girl.
Okay, so for now, I think, yeah, we've got stickers sort of settled
Yeah.
pending that discussion.
and we can get electronic copies for all the newer things. The older stuff is still handwritten lists, so,
Mm.
Mhm.
or not available if it was done way
To be
back.
fair, my sticker's 15 years old and I built a new house 10 years ago, so my address is wrong in your list anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to number 2. So residential trash. Clarification between both towns about residential trash fees. Heard 2 different opinions. One rep saying all residential is free and one saying still supposed to be charging for large loads.
It's only the household trash is,
So
Free.
you have to define household trash. What goes into our hopper, which is where your household trash goes. Also insulation, Trex decking, large, clean out items when you're cleaning out your garage. We put hot tubs in there. We have put whole boats through the hopper, so that's,
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
yes.
That was
Gonna make us all see.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so I'll jump in here because part of this is one that we've heard questions of, even when we had our public hearing. Which was if I'm Joe and I'm helping out 8, 9 people down my street, collecting all their trash and bringing it in. Now I've got a truck and or a trailer full of trash. I look like I'm a hauler. I'm saying that it's only the trash that's from, family members or residents on the street that I'm helping. How does that get differentiated from a hauler, or does it? Because in some cases you could say it shouldn't because they are hauling. And in other cases, you could say, well, it's just everybody's trash that they're taking.
Right now, I think we have a 400-pound limit.
Correct.
Had.
No,
That was eliminated.
Gone.
Remove the 400 pound.
Yes. So that also, I had asked to maybe, because it's been eliminated completely. And Dan would like to see 200 pounds. An allowance for 200 pounds. 100 pounds would be, that's what I was shooting for. Maybe 100 pounds would give us a little break in that area, but that could also work for trash as well as the demo if we had that. And then you wouldn't have to worry about what material is going into the hopper, just that it falls under the weight limit.
Mhm.
and to clarify, well, to expound on that from some of my conversations down there. Like when someone shows up with a chair. They have to take the time to go weigh it all. And that probably shouldn't take up all their time just to weigh a chair.
Or a couple boards, or I think you
Right,
talked
so
about,
the-
that's.
So the 100-pound limit to me makes sense. It isn't obvious, like you're not gonna be hauling a ton of everything for everyone if you're under 100 pounds. And it makes their lives a lot simpler by not having to weigh every single car that comes through.
How would that work if there was a 100-pound sort of at no charge? Do you
There
have to
would,
verify, like, how do you sort of enforce that? I'm just curious.
there would be a little bit of. I mean, a couch is about 100 pounds, most couches.
But would you look at it before they even got on the scale and say you don't need to do that, or?
Yes,
Okay, yeah,
yeah, and if it's questionable,
yeah, then hop on
They-
the scale.
yeah, and that's the way we always did it with the 400 pounds
Okay.
when we had it. It's questionable, you go on, if you're under, you don't have to pay.
Okay.
If you're over, well, then that's the rules.
Yeah.
That seems super reasonable.
It's pretty practical.
Yeah, we have spent a lot of time since August, on those little
Is there
tiny
a
loads.
specific reason Dan wants 2 versus 1, just to make it easier for you to eyeball it, or?
There's a lot of couches.
I think, I couldn't tell you. offhand.
But your preference would be 100 pounds? Or,
It would be better than nothing.
okay,
At least 100.
oh, I see.
I'm comfortable with 100, not knowing the particulars for why Dan might like 2. But 100 sounds reasonable.
I think he thinks 100 pounds happens fast.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, I haven't had a whole lot of experience. I haven't paid enough attention to see how many of our loads have been 100 versus 200 pounds, but we've had a lot of
Guys okay with
$1.25
100?
loads.
We'll start there. So does that answer
mean-
number 2 about residential?
Yes,
And then also number 4? The demo,
Yes.
okay.
just to make sure before we leave too, so we do not need to define household trash now, because it doesn't seem like that's necessary if we have.
as long as I know that everybody gets weighed at a certain point. that's fine.
Okay.
And you feel like eyeballing 100 pounds is, you kind of have that in your mind, so that makes that cutoff good.
I
Or-
think so, yeah.
Come on, my trash bag full of bricks.
Bricks don't go in the hopper.
Okay.
Just boats.
Maybe they do if you put them in a trash bag.
Well, I put a brick in there, you can put a boat. I don't get it.
Okay, so then can we move on to number 3, brush and stumps over 5
That's always.
feet? Feet.
So. Yeah. Dan, let's see, how do I explain this? If you're going to charge for only over 5 inches, which is how this is set up, it should be done per weight. And I say that because it's extremely rare that we get a pickup load of large stuff. It's usually 1 or 2 pieces at a time.
Right.
Dan has suggested, after I wrote this email, that he would think about charging for brush, all brush. And if you did it, if you charged for all brush, then by the truckload would be smarter, because then I don't have to have hordes of people coming back to my scale to weigh out. It can be a one-time charge and then you go out and dump your brush. So either way would be acceptable to me.
Do you know if there's a preference from either you or Dan towards one or the other? Or is it?
Dan would like to charge for brush. I hesitated at first because we get a lot of brush.
Yeah.
And that's why the single charge would be better. It would be at least only 1 trip to my computer, one. But he suggested charging because it takes us a lot of time to move the brush and move those piles down there.
Makes sense. Trying to see if there's, do you know if there's any comparable rates, like other towns that charge for brush? What they might charge for truckload?
I have no idea. I think once we start charging, we'll probably see a lot less brush come to the dump.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He had also suggested that where it says passenger truck, 'cause I mean, we get people that bring their brush in their yard waste a little trunk load at a time. And so he really liked the layout here, a passenger truck, if you have a full passenger truck, a $10 load, a full truck or trailer at the $20, and then the really big ones at the 30. So you're covering some costs without being unfair.
So the trunk of a passenger car would be no
Just-
charge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very small, little bit in the
Yeah.
back of a pickup truck, just let it go.
To go to the brush and stumps, what was in the old ordinance was $100 per ton.
Yeah.
The inflated fee would have been 137, and I did not have a specific listing from any other nearby towns. They either didn't take it or didn't mention it. Back when the trailer fee was much cheaper.
So I'm getting a little mixed up between your email and what, so you're saying that currently Dan is okay with what we have with the passenger being 1 rate, 1 ton being.
Yes, so Dan's suggestion is what you have says 5 inches or larger.
Mhm.
Dan says all brush.
Okay,
Just get rid of that.
Remove The 5 inches.
Yeah.
or
Yes.
less.
okay.
And then smaller amounts than a passenger truck are no
Free.
charge.
So Concord does $10 for a pickup truck and cars. And $25 for a 1-ton vehicle.
So I'd say if we just don't change anything other than remove the 5 inches, we're probably fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fine.
I agree with that.
Is that gonna be kind of a lot though? Like how much does a truck,
How much what?
like if a pickup truck comes in with a bundle of brush? How much do you think that weighs?
Yeah, so if you do it this way, it would not be by weight.
Yeah.
It would be by the load.
And so we're doing, sorry, what would the load be then for a truck?
$10.
$10, okay. Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that.
Okay,
And
so
and the advantage of that is they don't have to get weighed
Mm.
in or
Exactly.
out.
Right.
okay.
It's,
My
it's a-
brush pile is like way up.
Yeah. So you
We'll
can
be
just send
lucky
them-
if we can get everybody to come to the office and pay first.
Yeah.
That will be the other challenge.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. So for now, if we just take out the 5-inch
Mhm.
thing, that's a helpful,
Yeah, brush and stumps.
okay. Everyone good with that?
Mhm.
That
All
sounds
right.
good.
Okay, that leaves us with 5 tires. Commercial truck tires are priced appropriately. Passenger car tires are priced at double what you pay to get rid of them. Okay.
So I actually had a discussion similar to this with somebody at the transfer station a few weeks ago. And they were bringing up numbers like this, but one of the things that, and please correct me if I'm wrong. One of the things is my understanding that the numbers, for example, for the passenger tires. Is that that's just the amount that they charge per tire. It's not also including the amount that they charge for the load, for the fuel surcharge, and so on, when we come and pick them up. And so that's why it was considered to be plenty reasonable to do it this way when we talked about the numbers initially.
I would have to look at my paperwork again, because I don't think I might have a pickup fee for my tires. But it is not that much.
Okay.
Dan has definitely seen an influx in tires on the side of the road already. I've had a number of people that will not bring them at $10 a tire.
You get charged more than that when you let somebody change them.
Mhm.
That's true.
Or to get rid of them at all.
Yes.
We take them home and throw them on the side of the road.
Right.
That's what you say.
I know, right, right,
We have.
right. Well, it just seems so reasonable. That's,
Across New England, the tires seem to be $5 a tire.
Yeah, when I look back at the numbers, when we gave them, the kind of original fee was closer to 5. Nearby towns are up to 15. And so we had gone kind of in the middle at 10. Then the joint boards decided on the price. With the inflated fee from the original, so the original ordinance fee was always actually $10. The 2012 ordinance fees was $10. So we just decided to keep the existing. If we're talking about lowering it now, that's fine, but that's how that came about. Was nearby towns were up to 15. Ours was 10, so we kept it.
You don't sound like it was 10 before.
It was $2 a tire before, and then jumped up to 10.
Okay, well, what was listed in the 2012 ordinance was 10 per time.
10 was large truck tires.
'Cause we
Vehicle
had-
tires were-
I don't know, the ordinance was listed at 20.
So a little potential mismatch then possibly, but either way, it sounds like functionally, practically, it was $2 a tire.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, if Dan actually is observing an increase on the side of the road, obviously. Seems like it would be better to lower it to 5 if it was at 2. I don't know how others feel about this.
We get charged $4.50 a tire when they get picked up, so you're still making 50 cents. And you could run with that for a year, and if we're not covering costs enough, which you should be, then you could adjust it again.
I'm fine at $5.
Five seems good. I mean,
Yeah.
looking around, 5 seems pretty reasonable.
You good with that, Webster? Okay. Great. The last thing on the list, unless you have others you'd like to talk about,
No.
is electronics.
Yeah, just scratch off that tube television under your projection console TVs.
I would add, in addition to what you said, that Goodwill will not accept tube TVs.
Really?
Yeah. And so if you want to get rid of an old tube TV, you can't go to Goodwill, then charging $30 seems,
You're gonna see that little, I just laugh because we get like the ones that used to come in the old Winnebago vans that are this big and they're tube television. And if I had to tell somebody that was gonna be $30, it's gonna be a riot at the dump.
It's gonna be on the side of the road.
I think the tube
So just
televisions
take
are
out-
fine, just as the
Just by.
sizing, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying just take tube televisions out entirely from the $30
Exactly.
line? Anyone have an issue with that? Okay. All right. So I know we have the sticker issue to come back to. Was there anything else from the fee schedule? Okay.
I don't believe so.
All right, so back to the sticker issue. What exactly had we?
This
said
is starting to trigger more memories in my brain.
we-
No,
Help
no.
us, help us.
Okay. To be clear, I don't think there was anything concrete, and this is not something, this is just the discussions I remember hearing and having. One, there was a big push or a big discussion around RFID stickers in a gate.
Oh,
To remove. The workload of checking stickers. To do that, it would require a more expensive sticker and then also more likely a yearly sticker as opposed to a lifetime sticker. And also the pros and cons of doing yearly stickers. To make enforcement a bit easier, because then if someone isn't complying, you can remove the sticker. Which you can't really do now, but. That's I remember, like, I think the context and if you.
So there was talk about, was it time to update the stickers and did it make sense to do a yearly sticker for a few years? That would be the same color as the registration and they'd get it with their cars. So
Stickers would be good.
yearly stickers would be good.
Oh, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody moves out of town to Concord and they still have their sticker. There's no way for me to,
Hmm. That's interesting.
The sticker game.
Mhm.
How it makes your.
yearly
little
stickers would
miserable.
also make it easier to move towards a electronic record of stickers as well.
yes,
Mhm.
very true.
At least one time through to do that would get everything electronic.
And the advantage to something like the RFID, Easy Pass, whatever type for the gate. Is it can actually fix like the company truck problem too. Cause you say, I'm getting this for this household, and then whichever car you show up in, that's, you put it on your car and you come through. So it's already saying you're good.
Until you come into contractors or people borrowing, in which case you would have to set up some sort of system where they would have to go.
Well, if they're
Beforehand to
borrowing,
get-
they'd still have their RFID tag and they would go through. It would only be an issue for contractors, which would mean something
Well, no.
different.
Or if they're borrowing a truck from somebody who lives involved. That's one of the things that happened when we were down there checking stickers. I took this from my dad, he lives in Bell. There's an RFID sticker required, it's not gonna be on that truck from Bell.
Well, so that's the difference between the Like it's just a sticker versus the Easy Pass style. Which is, I stick this in here when I'm going to the transfer station from my house.
But I think the RFID thing, I think, is a much bigger conversation, but regardless, doing a yearly sticker would make it easier to transfer, like, if we came up with a good way to do it, RFIDs next year, the year after that, or the year after that. If we already have a process in place of yearly updating the stickers, doing that sort of transfer would be easier, because we already have a process in place for everyone getting a new sticker every year.
So how would it work logistically? New sticker every year? I'm not opposed, but just,
When you register your vehicle.
but so is it like a different color? Like, how do we know?
It's the same color as your inspection sticker and your license plate sticker,
Inspection.
so
Yes.
everything
Okay, that makes
matches.
Total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how, so, which is easier to do if town meeting votes to rescind pay by bag, because we could have the same sticker for the Hopkinton Webster transfer
yep.
station. I don't think there's necessarily any reason to have
Differentiated.
two
sticker.
different.
Yeah,
We could
Mhm.
do them different shapes if we weren't going to do
So
that.
perhaps we should revisit that at the next year after town.
yeah.
Revisit the yearly issue?
Because that's when you can practically update it.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause if you're not changing the sticker all the time.
Right.
Mhm.
no one's gonna buy the sticker.
Right.
Okay.
The thing I'll say there where when that time comes, we should have a much further discussion about that versus the RFID.
Mm-hmm.
Major challenge that I see to we're gonna update the sticker and charge every year is then people are going to A, either try to game the system or B, be expecting to see somebody checking all the time. And I don't want to make it their full-time job to have to send everybody all the time about stickers. It's great that, they will step up and tell somebody, hey, let's see a sticker. It's another to say, please don't do the rest of your job because you gotta be standing there watching for people with stickers. So.
That sort of raises the point, Jolene. Since the stickers have been enacted, what kind of compliance are you seeing?
Stickers are not actually not very easy for us to check on a regular basis, especially with how busy we've been with the scale since these new changes were put into place. And in the past, I think most of our sticker checking, one has been if we have people that have a concern about somebody. I have definitely had people that just followed this guy from Concord. He's coming from Concord with his trash. Okay, we'll check his sticker. And
Hot people coming from Concord?
I have had a couple incidences,
Mm-hmm.
but one, actually the one I'm speaking of, was somebody who had done a job in town. And so his face became familiar. And then the person he had done the job with or for said something. And so I went and approached him and I said, if you're not from town, you can't be in here. And he left and it wasn't a big deal. Most
I think the big deal
people,
is he was trying to do it.
most people that I have to ask or check in on them are from town.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I
mean,
would
that's
say
hard
we
to
see a
do.
lot more people coming for stickers on even
Mhm.
on a regular basis, so.
I always had people coming in for stickers though. Like,
I think there's been a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything in the current ordinance that stops us from doing yearly stickers if we want to. There's nothing that says anything about a sticker lasting forever. It just says you have to have a valid sticker, and there's no definition of a valid sticker. So if we wanted to start handing out stickers with registrations, we could start doing that.
I would think that if we do make that decision, we'd want to clarify the ordinance so that somebody couldn't say that's not required
I
under
have
the
a
ordinance.
That's 15 years old. I have.
Right, but I'm saying like if we change so there's also nothing in here that defines what color it has to be right now. It just says
Right.
about, it says the clerks are in charge of making
Yeah.
valid stickers. So if we change the color and over the next year, we start giving everybody with their registration a new sticker, a year from now, everyone will have a new sticker.
Mhm.
And then we can just keep that up. We don't need to like immediately switch over the enforcement of it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to, if any of that is going to happen, it should happen after you know what's going on with your green bag program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Relook at it in the spring.
Mhm.
Which by then we should also have, is this the last year of the waste contract or the one?
I believe 2025.
2025 is the last year. Otherwise, we'd be hopefully have one.
Okay, so more to come on stickers, but it seems like we at least have a sort of vision for where we can be. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I think we could move on to the lagoon and potentially let Jolene go. Good, very good. Thank you so much for coming in.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Your insight's awesome.
Yes, we really appreciate all that you do.
Thank you very much.
Just a question on process, since they're scheduled, maybe have the public hearings in the right?
Really should have a public hearing
Yeah.
to do it.
Are we able to hold them as one joint public hearing?
I don't see why not. We could Zoom if we're meeting on the same night, especially. Do it in both places at the same time. And generally, there aren't that many people. So,
Especially if we're gonna make them easier and less expensive.
Right.
that's it.
And we're not doing them. We're doing four.
Right.
The only big change the other way is the brush. But
Mhm.
we can, do you want us to work, to come up with a date and schedule that?
That would be good between you and Dana.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we had the process right.
To get it. Right. Everybody's favorite topic, the lagoons and hopefully. I thought it would be bigger, sorry. But you do, everybody was sent copies and we'll try to at least give you a sense. So this is the, do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, I think we're good to go
Okay.
on lagoon.
This is the conceptual plan prepared by our engineers, Novus Engineering. They're also, as you know, our landfill engineers. We presented the conceptual plan to DES this morning, and it actually was received very well. In the past, all of this sludge removal would be basically prepared and spread on fuels, but PFAS has changed all of that. So we'll try to walk through. Let me see if I can blow this up at least a little. Thought the big screen might help, but. All right. So, this is the site which is located at the landfill, near the landfill. And the proposal is to phase construction in a way that keeps basically the movement of the material to a minimum. It creates two stockpiles. The first stockpile here is the dry materials. And the second stockpile here is for the dewatering. So the wetter material would go there. And the entire area does have trees removed. All right, so this area shows where the water will run from the dewatering. You can see that if the dewatering material is piled here, will run into here and basically will naturally dewater. It shouldn't need anything other than to sit there to have all the water run out. This is a lot cheaper than bringing in some, that's however they would do it. And all the material stays right there in the area that is already contaminated, which DES really likes. So this is phase 1. And so materials from Lagoon 1, which is here, will be removed, dug out, and either placed, if it's very wet, it will be placed in the dewatering part. And if it's dry, it would go in the dry part. Now, a lot of what's there is material that sludge has gone in, it was mixed with other material and it's stockpiled. So a good portion of it, it really is dry. So the base, basically, then we'll go to the next and I'll really blow this up. So after the material is dug out of the lagoon, this base will be added, which is, let me see my mouse. That might even be easier. So this is stone and then geocomposite and then sand. So basically this area is created to be 6 feet above the groundwater level. And this will happen at each of these sites. And then material from the stockpiles, starting with the dry stuff, will be put in. And that will happen at each of the sites. This is the next site.
Is that something where we could potentially save some money through the stone or composite layer by using the crushed glass that we have? Since that would normally be a replacement for crushed stone?
That is an excellent question. I will find that out. That makes sense. They're happy to use material that we can find. So that seems like a logical place to use that. So this is the other one, and then you get down to the last area, which gets dug out. Same thing happens, but this is actually where all the dewatered material will also go in. So this is the last one. So you basically end up filling each of these holes and then putting the other material on, and then you move to the actual capping. It will look like this, but we'll go to this part and blow this up. So what will happen on top of the material? So here's the contaminated material. And then you have soil, which is a clayish soil, and sand, and the textured membrane, and geocomposite, and then more sand and topsoil. So that's basically what goes on top of all of these, each individual things. And this is sort of the layout of how it would look, and to be sloped. And the cover is the monofill. So some things to note, everything is confined to the contaminated area. This plan requires a lower amount of water management because it's all pretty much occurring naturally. This berm, this slope, this area is done so that potentially solar could be put on this at some point if that was desired. The plan's really designed to protect the towns in the future too. It follows all the solid waste regulations. We're also this is really the first robust plan that's gone to DES to deal with this. But new rules have just come out, and all lagoons similar to this have to be closed within the next 5 years. And everybody's going to be going through this exact same thing. It was shortened from a 10-year span to this. DS was happy with this. They thought it was a good plan and seemed to address things in a good way. Just to note, this is where you see, this is how they determine that there's enough room there on site to stockpile. So moving forward, the next phases would be the plan would be finalized and submitted to DES. Some questions will be left open pending determination of a contractor, because contractors are more practical than engineers is what it really comes down to. And they might have a better way to do certain things that works. The bond vote would take place at the Hopkinton Town Meeting in March, and bid specs are prepared, contract awarded, and construction would be in 2025 and finished in 2026. Stop share. And so this assumes a 20-year bond. Although you do have numbers for the for 10-year bond. The estimated construction costs are 3.65 million, and a 10% contingency has been added in for a total bond of 4.015 million, which is a lot of money. Luckily, or a good thing, at least part of this, is we have been awarded the ability to borrow this money from the Clean Water Revolving Fund, the state fund. And so that was a big grant, thanks to Beverly here, who wrote that grant and followed through. And basically the fact that we can do this means the loan does not begin until construction is complete. There is a 1% interest charge during the construction phase. Bond counsel isn't required, so that saves over $5,000. Current interest rate for 20 years is 3.072. The current interest rate is only 2 for 10 years, so those numbers are there. And it requires the 3/5 vote required at a bond as a bond is required at town meeting. And this kind of gives the numbers. I had the new, basically the estimated Hopkinton valuation, so I can put that in, but we could plug in Webster's also.
Being that this would be a bond, not a loan. Cannot pay off early, and the interest rate can't change once it's created, correct?
The interest rate doesn't change. I believe you are allowed to pay this one off early, but I'll confirm that.
And if interest rates drop, we can refinance it. Well, that's not always.
Yes, although the estimate is probably, basically these loans come in under good interest rates, but who knows? The 3% is higher than some of our bonds ended up being. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Where would the wastewater treatment debris fit into this?
That's a separate project that gets dewatered on site at the wastewater treatment facility, and then would either go to the dry pile or the wet pile, depending on how it is when it got there. We would track that, and that would be paid for separately.
And you're still looking at an estimate of up to $1 million for that?
Yeah, I don't have very good numbers on that. Hopefully very soon. The engineers are working on that.
And so obviously you want to make it better for Hopkinton residents to do this than to have to ship that off. At the same time, we don't want to end up kind of funding more for this project because that's happening. And then the savings only be because Webster's paying for it too.
Right.
So how is the valuation of that supposed to kind of get calculated? Is it the amount that you're not gonna have to spend on another that then goes in as an offset to this? Or is it something between that and construction costs to handle it within this project? Or is it only flat construction cost?
I think that's going to be a discussion the two boards are going to have. I think once we have that volume and all the costs for that, then you can have that more effectively, whether it's,
And does that change these numbers then?
it potentially could lower that share. It doesn't, this is these numbers are the full cost bearing that. So some of that would not actually fall out of there, but we don't know how much of that would come off and not be a Webster share. That would have to be negotiated between the two boards. So, and we're
So this is, these numbers include that waste.
bearing that sludge. Yes, those are in these numbers, and a fairly high number too. So which should drop even lower. So
So you said that's somewhere around 1 million, or is that for the total project and then only part of that?
that's the conceptual number we've been using, but we really don't have very good numbers from that engineering firm yet.
And that's expected when?
Hopefully next week.
So I understand what you're saying, Neil. If the lagoon, the wastewater treatment wasn't an issue, would we be looking at an estimate of 4 million just for the transfer station lagoons?
It would be slightly less because it would be less material.
Just slightly.
Yeah, because conceptually, most of this is there. But once we have those volumes, we can do a better comparison to know that.
Not having gone through a bond hearing at a town meeting. Is that a authorization to take a bond up to a certain amount or for a specific amount? So that you have to do it and then figure it out.
It is up to a certain amount. The warrant articles are generally written to well, in this case, if it's through the revolving fund, things are fairly set, but normally it gives the authority to negotiate bonds or loans is how we usually do it, depending on what is the best rate at that time. And did I leave out that part? That using the I did, probably the most important part, using the revolving loan, we've been awarded 10% of this of the 4 million is being forgiven by DES. So 401,000 was part of the grant awarded. So that comes right off. So which you see, so assuming that it's the just over the 4 million, the first 2 years, 25 and 26 are the 1% on the construction loan. And then the actual amount borrowed is 3.6 because that 400 that is the grant is then awarded at the end of construction and you don't have to bond that. So that's how these numbers come in here. That's kind of one of the most important parts of this. Hence why there's probably no better deal out there than doing this loan.
This was a very helpful update. Thank you, Neil. Does anyone else have questions for the moment?
Do we need to make a decision tonight other than just sort of being brought up to speed?
I think this is just kind of an update, and certainly either in the budget process or before the final, yes, we're going to move forward.
Okay.
But this is where we're at, and we presented, really the engineers presented this morning, so.
And I guess what I was thinking of and asking that was, you know, the appropriate maturity term for this, because obviously there's a different impact on the tax base depending on which one. And I would assume before we make that decision, we would consult with Webster again, because it'll impact their taxpayers as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Neil.
Administration. A little less than we have that we currently do. Would be a bit more than what we do the first several years and then post. I do really love the 2% rate because that's almost always going to guarantee beating inflation. So it's like
Yeah.
we've actually been given free money.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good way to look at it.
That's a great one.
Oh, that's a glass half full.
Yes.
With the 20-year, you kind of hope that things normalize a bit more.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to rush you guys out of here, but we do have a 6:30 public appointment as well, but,
You can
We
rush
could,
away. We're really okay.
I guess the question is, when should we have those discussions? Or you said that in about a week you'd have more.
We should have more.
Budget committee go through enough that you can have an appropriate conversation of we think this is the better option for the term, but not this is the term that we're gonna try to get.
And I think
When-
you're scheduled back next month as part of the regular budget things. And so I think we could tie that in, at least an update at that point. We should have more information by then.
All right.
And that's still before anything's decided.
I don't know the date off top of my head.
Next month, he said.
Yeah.
When do we need to indicate to DES which payment term we'd want?
We don't have to tell them anything until after the town meeting. vote.
Okay, so we have until next spring then to make that call.
For the most part, we'll just wait for that vote.
all right.
Wouldn't that have to be wouldn't the terms have to be part of the bond vote?
No, the board's generally given the authority to do that. But generally, that's sort of decided in advance, so it can be presented clearly.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
budget committee's gonna weigh in too.
Right.
All right, so it sounds like we'll be seeing you guys again soon potentially for a public hearing on the fee schedule updates.
Yes. Sounds
Lucky, right?
Yeah, try to tie it all
It's always a delight to see you.
Good seeing you guys. Thank you.
Over.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice. One.
Hi. That brings us to our 6:30, now 6:43, I apologize, public hearing related to a 79E request. Bring Brian up for this. Welcome.
Hello,
Lou.
Yeah,
going?
good. Learned a lot about our fee schedule in the lagoons, I presume, being.
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
Hi. So we have your application. I feel like in the past, we usually just have people sort of walk us through the general project and we can ask questions, I guess, and yeah. So I don't know if you want to just give us sort of an overview.
Sure, in the project itself or just,
Yeah, I
um,
think that's, am I right on process here? Yeah.
And probably the public good, stress the public good.
yeah, okay. I think you're all familiar with the project. I am the owner of Cedar Street Holdings. I'm the sole owner of the property as well at 16 Cedar Street. I purchased this building back in 2016 with, this has always been my intent to take it over when the Covered Bridge Restaurants lease ended. I am the one crazy enough to take this on. It's been quite a project. My wife, if she was sitting here, would probably tell you that I never disclosed in our first date that I was thinking about opening a restaurant. I might not have got a second date if I had, but here we are. I'm well into this project, and there's been a lot of hurdles. Mostly, I think most of the hurdles have been, structural. When you start digging into an old building, you guys know, I mean, it's a can of worms.
Mhm.
And this project was not different than any other old building. And of course, dealing with a structural engineer, I feel like he has really over-designed. I joke that I should name this restaurant the Storm Shelter, because it's definitely a place that I think you could feel safe in the middle of a tornado. But that being said, we've really gone right through the whole building. I completely gutted it to the studs. All the electric wiring, plumbing, everything has been ripped out. So everything on the inside, well, even the exterior, as you can see, is all new siding, all new windows, doors, new deck, as you can see. The wiring, which is just about to start, that my electrician just started today. That's all brand new. All the plumbing is rough plumbed to this, to date, and it's all brand new. The HVAC, we're finalizing the plan tomorrow morning. That's all brand new. So everything in this building, with the exception of the existing framework, everything's brand new. We furred out all the existing walls, exterior walls, just because my structural engineer wanted that extra strength. So yeah, I would say that 90% of this building is going to be brand new. So we are still, I'm hesitant to throw out an opening date. I've tried a few times, that's backfired. So I definitely don't have a date. I would say we're going to be working on this into good part of the winter. As of right now, that's what it looks like. We're making a lot of great progress. So, I mean, we're there every day. So I guess I'll throw this back to you guys. If you have any questions for me, if I've learned anything from dealing with the Concord Monitor recently, sometimes less is more. So I'll turn it back to you.
Can I just,
Sure.
can you just speak a little bit about how the project provides, how you think it provides a public benefit? That's one of the things that we have to look at in sort of issuing or
Yeah,
processing this application. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
I feel 100% this thing is going to draw people to the village. I think we're gonna see a lot of people from town coming down because of this, and possibly walking around shopping at the local shops. I think it's going to draw people off the highway. Some of my marketing and strategies involve trying to draw people off the highway. Ski traffic, mountains, people going to the mountains and the lakes in the summer, trying to capture that, and hopefully that traffic will, I'm hoping they'll stop in town and spend money at all of the shops in town. I really believe that's going to happen.
Do you have any specific plans about how to pull people off of the interstate? I mean, I know at least in the Economic Development Committee, we talk a lot about signage on the interstate and how actually tricky it is to get that signage.
I know. Other than, maybe doing some marketing, but the signage, I hope to add my business to the sign at the exit.
Okay.
I think Kentucky is it's a pull off for the highway to get gas.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that people will start to learn about this restaurant and actually say, hey, let's pull off exit 6 and go grab a burger at this place. And while we're there, they've got some great retail shops. That's, you know, like I said, I firmly believe that'll happen.
I think your materials say that the second story is really going to be office space and storage. So there, even though it's residential now, you're not proposing to keep it residential.
So it was residential when I bought it.
Yeah.
And up until 2 years ago, residential. I have since gutted that whole upstairs.
Okay.
We have 2 overflow bathrooms from the restaurant because on the first floor, I keeping the 2 bathrooms ADA compliant, I made them as small as I could to maximize the seating capacity in the room for the kitchen on the first floor. So I have 2 overflow bathrooms upstairs on the second floor that are fairly large. We have an office for the restaurant, and then the whole other half of the upstairs is completely empty. And my plan now is to just get it wired, heated, insulated, drywalled, and just leave it. There's no plan for that as of right now.
And the office space up there, are you planning to rent that out?
No, that's just office for the manager of the restaurant.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Brian, where you mentioned that the building was built in the early 1900s. Out of curiosity, I guess as much as anything, before it was a restaurant, was it a grocery store at one point? And-
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in town, I think anybody that grew up here in the 60s, 70s, 80s has a, you know, fond memory of Reed's store. And before that, I believe it was Reed's drugstore. I think my dad can confirm that. He grew up here as well, but yeah, so but prior to that, I believe back in the early days, I think it was a mill building at one point. But you know, as far back as I can remember, it was a general store. Like the quintessential New England general store. So
I did have one other one. I forgot.
Another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
You talk about using at least 70% of materials and labor from local businesses. And I didn't know if you're able to elaborate on, you know, what sort of efforts you'll sort of put to that and you know, where that 70% figure comes from.
yeah, I'm using 70%. I think it's more than that, but I'm using at least 70% local. I'm sourcing all my materials for the most part from, you know, places like Sear Lumber. Granted, that's not from town, but it's local.
Yeah.
The subcontractors, I would say the majority of them have been from town or at least the next town over. And I'm really adamant about that. I've been, you know, trying to keep it as local as I can.
Yeah.
So I think 70 is actually a little low.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions for Brian? I should have led with this because I also did see the monitor chatter. But just to be clear for people, this is a state law. I believe it was passed in, looks like 2006. It's been around a while. And as you can see, it's called the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive. And the whole point of it is to do the very thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So just to read the first part of the statute, it's declared to be a public benefit to enhance downtowns and town centers with respect to economic activity, cultural and historic character, sense of community, and in-town residential uses that contribute to economic and social vitality. And it goes on, lists a few other things, but I think, I mean, we'll talk about this more as a board because we have to go through the checklist. But I think, you know, you've invested in this spot in an amazing way, and it's really like an iconic spot right there. It's so beautiful. And I personally feel so fortunate that we have someone like you who's so invested in the community, with such a deep personal connection to the town, you know, taking over that spot. So I think the state legislature, you know, they passed this law to encourage people like you to do the
Mhm.
thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to like level set with people that that's what
Yeah.
this is about. There's a whole process that we go through. This isn't like made up out of thin air.
Right.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
That it requires town meeting approval, which happened in 2009. Town
Correct.
meeting
So our town adopted this.
It,
Correct.
it
Yes.
was,
So like as a community, we also decided that this is important. So,
Yeah.
um,
Thank you for that clarification.
yes, I should have started with that. So thank you for, the time and energy. And I'm sure a lot of headaches that have gone into it so far.
Here when the project's.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there aren't other questions for Brian, then I think we can probably discuss as a board.
Public input.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the public, this is the public input session here. All right, well, thank you, Brian. That was super
Sure.
helpful. And yes, now we can open it up to the public for comments and questions, if there are any.
So I have one question.
Okay, so to pick you up on the mic, and Brian, if you want to go sit back down, you can,
Sure.
because otherwise we can't
Yep.
pick you up on the.
No problem.
you also have one email.
Do you need my name? All that good stuff.
Great.
Renee Carey, 107 River Grant Drive. So I think this is a great idea. I love what Brian's done with the building. Love it, because I walk downtown all the time. Here's my question. What the tax relief, whether all the boxes are checked and it's granted, who makes up that money to the town
So,
that he otherwise may have paid?
so it's not lost revenue.
Okay,
It just doesn't change to the increased value. So it's not like he's getting he's paying less taxes than he's paying now.
yeah,
It's just with the increased value for that period of time, he won't be paying the increased amount.
okay, so that the town budget isn't based upon receiving those increased taxes. Okay,
It's spread over every taxpayer.
okay, but that's what happens is that amount is then spread out. So and I know that if all the boxes are checked, this happens. But I'm just a little bit worried about people in town who are already feeling the result of the recent reassessments, and who may be feeling like, the burden is getting greater and greater and greater. So I think it's going to be a public relations kind of marketing thing for Brian and the restaurant and for the board to go back to the town and say, here's why we did this. What you said a few moments ago is a perfect example of what should be done. And, we recognize the financial impacts of this. I just think that's going to be a little tricky for people. That's
And one more clarification though, people's taxes won't go up because of this. They just won't go down because of the increased value.
right, but so it's glass half empty, glass half full. It's two sides of the same coin.
It's not like people have to make up. It's not like there's a new budgetary item that everyone has to pay for because this is happening.
Yeah,
It's just that people's taxes aren't going to decrease because of investment in the town.
right. I understand that, but I just think that that's still gonna be difficult for some people, I mean, it's just the world we live in right now, right? So-
I think it's important to look at it in that it's a lower tax at first, which allows a developer to put more money into this project.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, when it expires, means more tax revenue and a higher value because they've expended
Because
more
if it's
money into the
successful.
property.
Right, there's no doubt in my mind that the
Yep.
restaurant's going to be hugely successful. There's no doubt in my mind at all. So I just think that it'll be how it's presented to the town. And I know you don't have to get town approval to say yes. But I think it'll be a marketing, I don't use the word marketing, but you know what I mean? It's going to be a public relations kind of thing to the town. That's all.
Yes, thank
That's all I'm
you.
gonna say. Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Can I have my microphone? Is that-
Please, yes.
Hey, friends, Alyssa McCann, 519 Crowell Road. I want to make sure I understand. So previously, when it was the covered bridge, it paid X amount of taxes. the covered bridge needed work done anyways. And so Brian, the current owner, has plowed in hundreds of thousands of dollars into that, which would increase the tax value. And all we're saying is, hey, you're going to pay that eventually, but you're not going to pay it yet because you spent all that money paying all these people who worked in this town and the next town.
That's a good summary.
Yes, but
Okay, but
so yeah, you've hit on, there's this delta between what's currently being paid and what would be paid on the improvements.
mhm.
And Brian is asking for a period of time where he's not gonna pay that delta. And then once that period stops, he doesn't have to pay back.
100%, 100%.
Starts, yeah,
Yeah.
it starts for the first
And
time.
so as a little asterisk on that, I could, as a building owner, choose not to invest and choose not to increase the tax value of my building
Mhm.
and leave it where it's at because I can't afford to both, not that I don't know Brian's finances, but if I could not afford to both invest and carry the burden of the additional tax, I could just leave it as is. And then there would be no increase in tax revenue for the town. It'd all be a wash. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll switch from questions to comments, which is as the business next door to this restaurant, I feel really good about this. It was actually my original business plan, no hard feelings, that the restaurant would open and it would bring all this increased traffic. And we've seen authentic growth in the village as more businesses have opened, as we've spent more time and attention on the village. And I can only imagine from the volume of gas station passerbyers I talk to who pop into witching hour being like, what are you and what is happening here? And all they're looking for is a bite to eat. And they love every day. We send them to every day. We send them to Riverside, but I'm going to be honest, like everyone has different hours. There are some days they're open and some days they're not. So having an additional option in the village will not only benefit those of us who are like, no, 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 stay and eat and shop, but also those of us who live here who are like, it's a Sunday or it's a Monday. And I mean, yes, I could cook for myself, but I don't want to. So I'm just naming like both as a business owner, but also as a community member, this feels like a really big win to me. And as someone who hopes to own more property in the future in the town, I think it's a huge incentive to invest if you know that you have a period of grace before you have to do that. Otherwise, you really have no incentive to spend that much money and pay that many people to do this work. So that's it.
Thank you.
My name is George Langwasser. I live in the Meadows in Kentucky. I think it's great what the dream that Brian has and what he's trying to fulfill. I would just point out that coming January 1st will be 3 years since that building has sat basically idle. I get questions from people asking me, when is it going to be completed? Here we're talking about taxes and it's not completed. I think there needs to be some firm commitment as to when this building actually gets completed and brought online. This will be the second summer in which the summer traffic has not come in there because of advertising or what else. It's a building under construction, the business being built. If that's part of helping out with the reduction in taxes, I think we've lost a lot of time. I'm not against what the board is about to decide or anything of that nature in Brian's. I just think somewhere we need to have before the Board of Selectmen, a date when that will be committed and confirmed. So it'll be up and running, and then we'll provide an economic input to the town of Hopkinton. Thanks.
Anyone else in the room push to comment? Anyone online, you can raise your hands. Okay. All right. Make one, sure, yeah.
Just to follow up to Mr. Langwasser, nobody wants this thing open more than I do. And I assure you of that.
All right, so I think we can close the public hearing. All right, is our review sheet, okay. Thank you to everyone who commented. And thanks again to Brian. All right. So last time we did one of these pretty recently. Did we just go through each? Yeah.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So first up is enhances the economic vitality of the designated area.
I'd say yes.
I would agree.
Does anyone have a different opinion?
No.
Okay. All right, enhances and improves a culturally or historically important structure. I think it's certainly enhanced and improved.
That store, I mean, I've only been here for 40 years. And that was operating as Reed's General Store when I moved to town. And I think it was there maybe 6 or 7 years after I got here. And you could tell it was a 1800s building by looking at it and walking in the pine floors that were like this because so many people walked on them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a definition of historic that we should be considering? Or is 100+ years enough?
There is, right? It has to-
Let's
think
see.
you-
Yes, it's
you-
a building listed at, well,
It's not,
it's in 70, were you going to refer to the statute here, Neil?
I mean,
That's a separate one.
the statute says it has to have one or more.
Oh, I know. for
We've
the
already
public
passed it on
benefit.
the
Right,
first
we've
one.
already done. Yeah, yeah.
So arguing over
Yeah.
it's historical,
Right.
that's not. I
Yeah, I
don't
was
think
just gonna
it's
say that it
significant.
is defined.
If we had said no on the first one, then we could
Right.
argue what's significant
okay,
historically.
yeah.
I mean, I think, my understanding of the application is that he's not alleging that it satisfies that one. He's focusing on the first and the third. And we've already talked about the first one. I mean, the third one, I do think he meets that one as well. Because I do think it'll foster a greater sense of community.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with the third bullet as well. Any other discussion on the bullets here?
Just to close the loop, I don't think it satisfies the fourth one because there's no residential
Right.
involved in this.
Yeah.
So I think if we're finding for public benefit, it's the first and the third
Mm-hmm.
of those bullets.
Possibly even the second one.
Yeah.
Since Brian.
It's not a maybe category.
There is a definition of historic in the statute.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's slightly different because that would add 4 years if it meets that criteria.
Yeah.
You sure we've already gone well past what the Secretary of Interior standards are for historic rehab, so we're not doing that one.
So then you just decide whether to grant and for how long, up to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I certainly think we should grant. What was the number of years we agreed upon for the last one?
Well, it was more than 5, but there was residential involved.
Right.
I think it was
We did-
5 plus 2.
We did
believe
7.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5+2
Mhm. Okay.
plus additional if they were gonna make them affordable, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
They did do that.
They did that.
Yeah, I agree. It should be granted. I'm sort of torn between the length of time.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that Brian's put in a substantial amount of money. And I do think that once it's completed, it will draw a lot of people to the district. So I would say, you know, I'd be comfortable with 4 to 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think 5, given the investment.
I'm certainly comfortable with 5. You know, Brian's got an estimate here of a little over $2 million he's put in the building.
Yep.
It's assessed for 200,000 right now before the reval. I'd quibble with a couple of the items being included, not to pick at you, Brian, but FF&E and equipment, I don't think are rehab costs or operating costs, but I'm sure that's not more than $150,000 or $200,000. So he's putting in 10 times the current value of the building. I think that's a significant investment.
Yeah.
It is what we're looking for downtown. You know, the last one, I think, the investment was double the value of the building. And we approved that for 7 years because it was creating residential units. I'm definitely in favor of the 5.
Yep,
I-
that's fine
I'd
by
go
me.
With that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through like in the scale of like what I would try to generate that scale on and. You know, like what would be at the low end of like what would we say it would be just be 1 year, or what would we say 2 years? But I think the location of the building. I mean. Not trying to, I don't want to use the word historic, but I mean, in terms of the history of the building. And I think the value that it'll add in revitalizing it, I think is definitely up far up on the high end of what that scale would be. So I'd be very comfortable with 4 or 5 years.
And the addition of the deck overlooking the river, I think, is significant for the town. We don't really have any place like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That capitalizes on the access or the visibility of the river, so.
A few years ago, when you approved one, you did it for 2 years, but those were condos that were sold immediately. So I think that's why that was a lower
Oh, yeah.
time frame than it may have been had it been
Right.
an owner occupied type. It wasn't really a business.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I don't want to cut off the conversation, but
Yes, you do.
I suppose I do. Yeah. I would make a motion that we approve the application. Because satisfies the following public benefits, enhances economic vitality of the designated area. And promotes development of the designated area. And I would further move that the tax relief period be for 5 years under the first column there. Yeah, a row, substantial rehabilitation, tax relief incentive.
Second.
I agree with that. I just have a question. When would it end? Or when does the 5 years start?
Says beginning with completion of rehabilitation.
Yep.
So 5 years from that date.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We have the motion, we have the second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay, it's unanimous. All right. Thank you.
Thank
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to old business. We have the joint select/school board meeting follow-up.
I don't have anything unless you all do.
No, except next year they have to come to us and do it during one of our meetings.
That seems fair.
I think we said that last year.
I know. We gotta put our. foot
I'll
down.
note it.
No, it was a nice meeting. It's always nice to meet with them and connect, since we're all in this
Really
community.
heartbroken.
I know you are, Jeff. Okay, then let's move on to new business, the budget committee update.
Okay, there was the normal discussion about inflation indices but that seems to be settling down in terms of my presentation, I basically talked about the same things that I talked about at the meeting with the school board. And most of the questions were relating to the bonds. And as expected, I gave them as much information as I had then, and at the next meeting of the budget committee in November, I can give them an update on what Neil has given us tonight and anything further. And like I mentioned in the points of pride, Mike Metcalf did I thought, an excellent update on what's happening with the Kentucky Village Precinct water system and the new lead rules.
When does budget committee start meeting, like, or the frequency of the meeting still every? Like once a
Or
month?
the beginning of November, let me see if I have.
When did we start meeting?
December
weekly?
they have
Is it
to.
November we start meeting? weekly?
It's the week after the election now. It was election week, and that's what you changed last time.
Right, okay.
And so I believe December 11th is when we present to the budget committee.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Ken? Okay, that brings us to, thank you, brings us to town administrator updates.
Sure. Share one thing that I meant to share when they were here, when you were talking about it. But these are the fees, transfer station fees, and you can see what happened in August when the new fees took effect. So it's fairly substantial. It will probably balance out.
Just because you didn't have the information yet?
Yeah, I didn't have that information. No, I didn't like it, so I didn't put it in there.
I was afraid it was zero.
I'm making a case, so I leave out information that's not important.
Ken was gonna ask.
I know.
Typed in unavailable.
That's it. I should have put not available yet. Great. Projects updates. Briar Hill is still moving forward and doing very well. Solar at the transfer station, the ATS, which was our portion that we needed to get in, the control panel went in 2 weeks ago, just after your meeting. And that is moving forward. Revision was supposed to have their control panels that they were waiting for this week, so we're hoping to be done. And then I think the holdup's going to be working with Eversource to get it online. We met, Paula, Dan, Greg, and I met with the skateboard people on Thursday. It seems like we have a pretty good path forward, working together and looking at what can be done. We're kind of pulling numbers together so that we can do a fair comparison of long-term costs. And so that's sort of where we came down, and that work is going on now. Reval, the only thing we're waiting for is the Sandy Beach assessment, which should be finalized then we'll be completely done and we can get those numbers in. Last week at the joint meeting, I gave there's been no change since those numbers were done. All the department head budgets were due on Friday. And so we're going through those. I'll be meeting with all of them the end of this week and next week and doing that. It really looks, we're at about a 3% increase doing nothing. So that's not a bad place to start. So that does not include capital, which is more, if you throw in the capital, we're at about a 10% total increase. And even that is better than the 35% we've started at some years. So I would think by the time it comes to you, we may have not a bad working budget. Just a reminder that Saturday is the fire department open house from 10 to 1. And on Saturday and Sunday is the Hopkinton Historical Society cemetery walk starring Mike Metcalf. And,
And
um,
Okay,
and me.
okay.
I have a small part. I did learn my lines. If I can remember them both those days will be good. That's been fun doing that. A lot of really good information. Actually, Mike Metcalf plays, the person that built the mill right behind where Reed's Tavern will be. Basically the Cedar Street parking lot in that area. So this all ties in, even though it's technically over the border in Warner. I spoke with our new human service coordinator who begins next Monday. She is excited to be here and I am even more excited to have her here because it's been a little crazy. I think that is it. The library had another really successful escape room. So, and they were packed and that seems to be attracting people that don't necessarily go to the library all the time.
Nice.
So an age group, so that was good.
All right. And
Anything new on the Horseshoe Tavern?
No,
It's got a witch.
it's got a
I like
witch.
that. It's
I
very
know.
festive.
Just appeared.
And I guess just for informational purposes, where Community Power for Hopkinton launched in October, there was apparently a glitch in terms of Eversource didn't provide the information from all of the customers. And I guess as far as I know, the coalition is looking into why, as Neil suggested, maybe it's because of the Hopkinton and Katukook names. Maybe they only provided the Hopkinton name as addresses or something.
Just the 200 in the village.
Yeah,
Just
know,
the, so Ken didn't switch, maybe.
I looked up my bill and it's under Hopkinton. But
So is a press release or some information going out to notify people what's going on here? Will the coalition do that? Because clearly people thought they were switching come October 1st and that's not the case.
I was waiting to hear back from Mark Zankel and what the coalition has found out. But yeah, that's.
You should put it up on the web.
Something should be done.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I can reach out to him too to get more information because that should really be out there.
And I guess still on the energy side, there's the New Hampshire Energy Expo is in Bow on Saturday, the 26th. Hopkinton is not a participant, but we've been invited to, come and I certainly plan to attend and see if it makes sense for, for next year for the Hopkinton Energy Committee to get involved.
There's a poster right there.
Yes. So
Thank you. Wait, did I see that the NHMA is triggering something in my brain? Are you going, isn't?
it's done.
Oh, it's done.
That was,
Good.
that was the Legislative Policy
Right,
Committee
okay.
meeting. I forget, it was over a week ago and in effect, the municipal association, supported all of the committee recommendations. Nothing that I thought was out of line with
Okay.
what was expected.
Great.
You maybe, the annual conference is
Coming up.
at the NHMA annual conference is a couple days after the 26th, later that week.
Oh,
That's what you're
okay.
thinking.
I get a bunch of emails from them and I
Yeah.
just saw,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's early this year.
Yeah.
It's usually in November. I'm not sure if this is better or worse, but we'll see.
Okay. All right, that brings us to public comment. Anyone wishes to comment? Our friends in the room, anyone online, you can raise your hand. Okay. Anyone have anything for other? Okay, we have no non-publics. So that brings us to adjournment.
So moved to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Everybody